Hi guys, welcome back to HSI class. Today, we will work on a project that explores fluid simulation in Cinema 4D. Today's class is designed with beginners in mind, and also if you're an intermediate, you will find a lot to unpack from today's class. In today's class, I'll be using Cinema 4D 2024, but if you have a previous version, you should be able to follow up just fine. I'll also be making use of RealFlow. RealFlow offers a free trial option, so if you're not willing to pay for the software right away, you can use the free trial and follow up with this tutorial. Today's class is broken down into various stages, so at each point in time, I will explain the current stage that we are in. Without talking too much, let's start today's class. So we'll begin this project by adding a sphere. So we're trying to create the water drop. To do that, you go into this tab here, click on it, then hover over the sphere and let go. Then click on the sphere. So in the attribute manager, I will set the radius to 25 centimeters. Set the segment to 32 for now. So with this, we'll add in an FFD modifier. To do that, you go into the modifiers tab, click on it, then down to FFD and let go. So now we have our FFD modifier. This allows us to modify our sphere without having to convert it to a editable mesh. So I will drag an FFD modifier under the sphere, fit to parent, then we have this. So with this, I can now go into the edit mode and shape. So I'll be making use of the rectangle selection tool, then move it forward. Click on this, then move it downward. Then click on this, move it forward a little bit. So we have that shape. Feel free to make this however you like. So remember to go to the front view, adjust accordingly. Okay, so now we have our drop. The next step is to create our scene. So the FFD allows us to work in a non-destructive manner, meaning that we can really undo this by just clicking this, and we undo this. I will name my sphere by double-clicking it and call it water drop. Next, I'm going to add the glass that the water drop was dripping from. To do that, we'll add in a cube. We'll set the parameters of the cube to 400, 400, and 800 respectively. Okay, so I'll raise on the y-axis by 1000 centimeters. With this, I'll rename the cube to glass. And in the attributes of the glass, in the object tab, I'll enable fillet and change the radius to 15 centimeters. Now let's add the 3D model of our cup. So now to import the cup, we'll go to File, Merge Object, click on our cup, then import the cup. Okay, so now we have our cup imported. Now let's add in the saucer. So adding the saucer, just add a simple plane, drag it under the cup. Feel free to manipulate it however you like. So I will drag in and extend it. So here's our saucer. Our saucer, our cup, our glass, and our water drop. Now let's add in the path that the water will follow. Right click on the glass, then click on Current State to Object. It will create a new glass for you with now an editable mesh. So this is still a parametric object, so we can disable this for now. All right, so we have to create the path at which the water drop will follow. To do that, we'll click on our cube. So that is this cube here, this glass. Then we'll go into the edge selection mode. Then we'll select the loop cut tool. Once you've done that, once you hover over your object, you will see an arbitrary line demarcating where you should cut. Select where you want to put your water drop, then click on it. When you click on it, it will create a cut there. So now we'll convert this cut into a spline. Once we make our cut, we deselect everything by clicking on the Move tool. We go into the Loop Selection tool. Click on the Loop Selection tool, then hover over where you made the cut. Click on it, then the cut will be highlighted. Right-click it and click on Edge to Spline. This will create a spline object under the glass object. Drag it out, go into the point selection mode. Once you do this, click on the Viewport Solo. This will solo out the glass spline. Now, we'll have to delete the points that we don't need. I will select them. I'll click on it and press Shift and click on the other points I don't need. Now, once I'm done, now I'll click these 2 points too. Once I'm done selecting the point I don't need, right-click and click on Disconnect. Then I'll hit the Delete key on my keyboard. This will disconnect my spline and delete the points that I don't need. Then go back into the model mode and disable Solo. And with this, we have our spline. Now, our water drop, let's duplicate it for now. The first water drop, we'll go into the Deformers tab, add the spline warp deformer, then drag it under our water drop. In the spline warp deformer, in the attributes tab, to insert our spline, we'll click on the eyedropper tool, then hover to where your spline is and click on it. It's already conforming to the spline, but it's being stretched out. To put the shape back to the way we want it to be, we'll have to adjust the to and the from sliders. We'll bring down the to 60%, and we'll bring up the from to 50%. If you notice the orientation is not proper, I'll have to go into the rotation drop down and change the banking to where we have it facing the direction we want it to face. In my case, that's about 277 degrees. So now, if we drag the offset, we notice our drop moves along the spline. we'll have to check the frame per second we are working with. We'll press Ctrl D on our keyboard. This will bring up the project attributes under the time drop down FPS. So we'll have to change that to 24 frames per second. Before we start animating, let's extend our timeline a bit. We'll click on the 72 frames and change it to 180 frames per second. We'll click on the spline warp, and in the offset tab, we'll drag our offsets to where we want our animation to start. Then our timeline is on frame 0. Then we'll click on keyframe button. This will create a keyframe at frame 0. So now we'll drag our timeline to frame 96. Now back to our offset, we'll drag it to where we are happy to have our drop end. For me, that is minus 26%. I'll just go here and create a new keyframe. Once the two keyframes are created, Cinema 4D will interpolate between the keyframes, and voila, we have our animation. Alright, so we'll click on our cup, then we'll go into the edge selection mode. By pressing U on our keyboard and L, that will bring up the loop selection tool. We'll select a point around here and around here. It doesn't have to be exact, but something similar should be fine. So now we'll press U on our keyboard and press F. That will bring up the face selection tool. We'll select this, the middle portion. Then we'll right click it and click split. This will create a clone of the portion that we have selected. Alright, then we'll go back to the original cup layer. So then we'll go back to edge selection mode. Then we'll select this lower edge. Let's select this lower edge, right? Then right click it, then click on extrude. So I'm going to extrude it forward. Then we'll have a hole. Then right click it, close polygon hole. Hover near it, a selection should show, and I'll click on it. Right now, this is a form of an end gun. I don't want this. I will change the polygon type from basic to grid. So this will give us a very neat arrangement rather. In the cup 1 layer, I will click on the edge selection mode, press UL, and click on the bottom layer first. Right click, close polygon hole, close. Click on the top layer and close hole too. So if I solo this, you will see that I have a solid cylinder. This will serve as our fluid. So I'll go ahead and create a sphere, use the move tool to move it up. I'll lower the scale to where I feel is just right. So the scale is very similar to this. I'll just move a bit forward to frame 112, then add a position keyframe. So I'll move to frame 152, then bring it down. Right now, you see that the cup is not actually well aligned. What I can do is select the cup and select the fluid. Move it with the gizmo a bit. It's well centered now. So now with this, when I scrub through the timeline, you see the sphere falls inside the fluid. Yeah, we'll go to RealFlow, go to emitters, then we'll click on fill. In the attributes of the emitter, under the body section, we click on the picker, then select the body we would like to use to generate our fluid. And it will fill up the body with fluid. Based on the animation of the collider, I know that I want to start my simulation from frame 112. So we'll just set our beginning frame to 112. I will hide the fluid geometry. Now you see the fluid that the emitter created. Add a mesher. I'll click my cup, then right click it, extension, RealFlow tag, then collider. Right click it, extension, RealFlow tag, then volume. Collider tag tells RealFlow that geometry is a collision geometry, while the volume tag tells RealFlow the resolution of the collision geometry. Click on my RealFlow scene, go into the RealFlow tab. So I'll add in the gravity demon, inflict our scene with the gravity, and I'll add in the crown demon. For now, I'll disable the crown demon. We'll just work with the gravity. And also in your RealFlow scene, in the attributes tab, you can enable use GPU. You see, now the simulation plays. Now, in case you are wondering why some of the fluids are jumping out, there are lots of reasons to it. But one of the quick ways you can solve it is just by clicking on the fluid that we created, the fluid object, then go into the edit tab, enable it, go into the edit, Ctrl A, then scale it down a little bit. So now we have our fluid simulation basically. Now we need to use the crown demon, make that splash. Enable the crown demon, click on it, then in the attributes tab, we have a lot of settings. No, this is simulation. You have to feel free to play with settings. Click on the crown, then we have to move the crown to where our fluid is. So that is around here. Now our crown is directly on top of our fluid. We must put directly on top of the fluid. All right. So this around the center, that's where I want this splash to be. Reduce the scale a little bit. This works fine. So now click on the crown, then I'll set the creation frame to, let's see, frame 140. Right now, as you can see, we have our basic simulation and it looks great to me. A couple things. Number one, I will scale down the crown I will increase the surface tension to 100. So now if you notice there's a fidelity issue. The fluid simulation doesn't look very detailed, and that is because of the scene scale. So now to fix that, if I'm going to edit scale project, then set the target scale to 2. If I go back to the beginning and press play, the simulation should be of high fidelity. All right, so right now I will set the acting time to 3, and I will make it start a little early, so 1:30. And I will lower the scale of the crown a little bit more, bring it up a little bit. Let me see. All right, so I will set the strength to 11,000 centimeters. Going to scene. Let's quickly make a simulation. So right now, as you can see, the simulation looks great. I am happy with this. There are a lot of other things we can do to make this a lot more dynamic. But for the sake of this tutorial, I will be stopping here. Let's set our timeline back to frame 0 since we have caged our scene. So everything is logged in. So I'll go into Corona and add in my camera. Then change the focal length to 80 centimeters focal length. In frame 0, I will drag it to the very top. So right now I'll click on my camera, click on the keyframe button to add a keyframe. Then I'll move to where that is frame 96. When my drop stops, then I'll move my camera accordingly and down that keyframe. So check that out. From here, I'll wait a little, then add on that keyframe. I'll add on that keyframe from here. Then this keyframe will be more of a rotation keyframe. So I will click on the camera, then go into the coordinates and drag rule the y-axis rotation. Then add a keyframe to that. So this will make our camera movement more dynamic. I'll bring our keyframe forward. What I can also do to make this a lot more dynamic is by holding down Alt, then click on this and drag it up and adjust my framing accordingly to make it more better framed. Then add a keyframe. So let's check it out. So now what I can also do to make this a lot more dynamic, I'll go to frame 96, click on the camera, then in the attributes tab, click on objects. On the focal length, I will add a keyframe to the focal length. Then go to the very last frame, that frame 180, and set the focal length to 135 millimeters and add a keyframe there too. So now with this, when we play our entire project, the camera movement should be a lot dynamic. Can do some more awesome things by clicking on the spline, going to the point selection, click here to add new points, create like 2 new points, then go back to the move tool, click on the point you just created and adjust them accordingly, highlight them, right click and change the interpolation to soft interpolation. Now when you go back to your model tab and you play this animation, it will follow this path. Because our workflow is very procedural right now, so we can make powerful changes later down the line. But for the sake of this project, I'll limit it to this. I want to really show you how to make your water drop fall. So click on your water drop, then duplicate it. Then right click it, then click on connect and delete. The connect and delete connects everything and converts an editable mesh. Drag this under the collider and hide the collider. Unhide the water drop. So now with this is what we have. The water drop gets here, then it falls actually, but the version that falls is not the version that gets here. At this point in time, I'll animate my scale, which is 111. Then I'll move a frame before, then make it 0, 0, 0. Within the span of 1 frame, this goes from 0 to 1. While same here, within the span of 1 frame, let me go 1 frame before, then add the keyframe to all the ones. Then a frame after, then make it 0. This is a neat little trick to make objects disappear quickly and reappear back. You should have it in a way that the water drop falls down from the glass, then drops. Clicking on the water drop that is falling, we'll add a smoothing deformer. Now this smoothing deformer will also animate the property in a way that at frame 90, the strength is 0. So the strength increases as it falls. So at frame 128, I will set the strength to 100%. Let me increase the iterations a bit more. Then reduce the stiffness. Starts falling at frame 112. So I'll drag it to 1112. I want it to be very fast with it. So let's say 128. We have our water drop falling in a decent manner. All right. So with this now, all that remains now is lighting and materials. Remember, if you have any questions, ideas, or suggestions, please feel free to send me a DM via my Instagram at Chizai Studios, or you can drop it in the comment section below and I'll do well to check it out and respond. If at any point you got lost, put it in the comment section below and I'll make a YouTube short to answer that question. We are a community. Feel free to reach out whenever you get lost.